Assalamu alaikum, girls. Today, our this is our third chapter, which we are going to start in our class of English compulsory. And the essay which we are going to start is from part one, and its title is "Why Boys Fail in College," and it is written by Herbert Edwin Hawkes. Right now, let's see that what do we find and how we have to discuss this essay. Uh, First of all, let's discuss the theme of the essay. Um, Herbert Edwin Hawkes focuses on the analysis of different reasons of the students' failure in their academic career when they cross the threshold of school and enter the boundaries of college, right? Apart from other reasons, the difference of level of education counts a lot in the failure of college students. The writer, being himself an educationist, he points out and he brings before us different facts regarding students' failure. And not only he brings out different facts, but also presents sympathetic facts regarding students, presents solutions and recommendations to improve the situation. So we find the essay a very useful discourse for the guidance of teachers and the students alike. And so this was all about the theme of the lesson. Um, it would be better that we should know something about the writer as well. Who was he? Herbert Edwin Hawke was born in 1872 and died in 1943. He was an American mathematician and an experienced educator who had first-hand knowledge of the various problems which boys face during their college life. His 25-year tenure as a dean of Columbia College, the longest of any Columbia College dean, brought him the name or the title the Dean of American College Deans. So this experience of his career played a great role in developing his insight and understanding about the problems of the students, as well as he was able to suggest solutions further to improve all this and improve the situation. Okay, now let's discuss the title of the lesson, that is why boys fail in college. The title of the essay signifies some primary and cardinal reasons for the student's failure at college level, right? The chapter starts like this. The essay starts like this. Of the boys who do not reach their academic boundary, their natural academic boundary, uh, let me read the paragraph once again. Right. have to wait for a while. Okay, the unit starts like this. Of the boys who do not reach their natural academic boundary uh, during the course of their college career, but who fail to get through. There are two main classes, right? The writer describes the two main categories of the students who do not get through their college life, who fail. One, those who try and those who do not try, right? Those who try to get through and those who do not try at all. Many boys attempt seriously to make good and really have the native ability to do so, but find it almost impossible to sit at a desk and concentrate on the task assigned. So some boys, they can do it because they have natural talent of getting through uh, their academic career, but they cannot concentrate, they cannot pay attention to studies. There is the boy who sits down to study, opens his book, but before starting on his work says to himself, I think that I had better sharpen my pencil. It needs it badly. And when he has sharpened it, he observes that all his pencils need sharpening, and so on, until his time is gone and nothing has been done. So, this sort of behavior is noticed in some type of students who fail to pay full attention or concentration on their studies. Such nervous habits are not easy to uproot, and so far as I can see, cannot be eradicated by anyone but the boy himself. Others can see the difficulty, but the boy must take himself by the collar and make himself cultivate a poise and calm that smothers the fidgets. Right? So, such fidgets, such strange habits can be rooted out only the student by himself when he takes himself by the collar. It's an idiom which means that when he tries to control himself. Until he does this, he does not really try. So such type of students, if they do not control their nervous habits, their strange habits, they are not really trying to study or trying to get through in their college life. Although he thinks he is trying and often spends more time in the presence of an open book than many boys of equal ability who does good work. Okay, so this was the first point discussed by the writer in the first paragraph. Now let's see what main points does this paragraph have. Okay, the writer has conveyed in this paragraph that there are two main classes of failing boys. One, those who try, and second, those who do not try. Some have native ability, natural talent to do well, but show lack of concentration in work. For example, nervous habit of wasting time in front of open books. And the recommendation is suggested by Herbert Edwin Hawkes that the student himself can control such habits by developing calm in his disposition and by sitting for study seriously. Okay, so this is all about this paragraph. Now let's move to the next paragraph. A common cause of failure is a mistaken ambition for the boy on the part of his parents, right? When the parents decide an ambition or career on the part of the boy, this causes failure, right? This is a very important cause. More often than I should wish, I find a boy who is not showing any interest in his work and who is not trying to do it with any distinction because he is following a direction mapped out by his parents. So the writer says that as a dean, as an educationist, when I find some boy showing no interest or lack of interest in his studies, I conclude that it must be this must be the reason, the mistaken ambition, and the boy must be walking on a road or walking on following a direction that is mapped out, that is decided by his parents. Okay, that run counters is again an idiom which means which is against. to all of his interests and abilities. All of his interests and abilities. That's why he is not showing any good performance in his studies. Next, he says, I have made a number of very warm enemies among the parents of college students by telling them that I am certain that the good Lord never intended their son to be a physician or a dentist or an engineer, right? It may be that the boy has ability enough to be any one of these things, but the long and short of it is he does not want to be, right? He says that a lot of time I spend in convincing the parents that whatever career they want or they have decided for their child, good Lord uh, mm, uh, is never intended in their son to be that, right? But if it is so, right, even the child himself does not want to become either a physician or a dentist or an engineer, uh, this is the direction which is not mapped out by himself but by his parents, right? Okay. Then he says he wants to be a theatrical manager or a businessman or a book illustrator, right? So these are totally opposite careers which are decided, which might be decided by his parents. Okay, opposite line of direction. Uh, it may be unreasonable for a boy to turn his back on a fine opening in a dental profession in favor of business, but reason cannot control all these matters, right? And as well argued with a person that he ought to like onions when he detests them. As a general thing, the boy wins out in such conversation. The writer says that I had been counseling with the parents and the students alike and forcing some student to join a profession in his future and study for the sake of that profession is just like pushing someone to adopt something he dislikes. It's like forcing someone to eat onions or to like onions when he badly or hates them. Okay. And he says in such councils, most of the time the student they win because they convince the parents that they are not interested in the in such profession which they want or which they have decided for them, and he should, right? I will read the line again. And as a general thing, the boy wins out in such controversies, and he should also. Be it said, the parent whom I have offended usually comes around after a term of year and tells me that his son was right and that he is thankful to me for taking the part of the boy in the argument. So the writer says that after some time, uh, even the parents they uh, uh, I find them convinced, and they agree with me that I guided them to the right direction regarding the future career of the student. If such a boy fails, it is because he cannot bring himself to try to do the work that is distasteful to him, that he dislikes, right? And that he feels is leading him in the wrong direction. If the college is alive to its work of advice, means counseling, such cases are fought before failure is complete. So, in this paragraph, few main points are discussed by the writer. Let's see what they are. First, he says that mistaken ambition is the major cause of students' lack of interest and ability. Secondly, he says that direction of their failure is mapped out by their parents. They try to do the work which is distasteful and leads them to the wrong direction. And that's why they show lack of interest in their studies and they fail. The recommendation uh, which writer has presented is that such students should be guided through counseling to choose a suitable ambition or the subjects to study according to their aptitude. In this case, the college must play a vital role in establishing a counseling committee to avoid the complete failure. Right? I think these two paragraphs are clear. Now let's move to the next part of the text, that is paragraph 3. Right? Another type of boys another type of boy who does not try is the very bright boy, right? Who has always done his schoolwork without effort and who has never learned what real application is. He supposes that he can float through college with a little effort as he did through school. I sometimes think that the bright boy who has always depended on his ability to get things quickly is the most pitiable object among all our failing students. Here, the writer points out another category of the students who do not try to get through, and who they are. They are such bright boys, such smart guys or students who think themselves capable of doing the intermediate level or the college level with the same little effort which they had been putting during their school life. And this misunderstanding leads them towards total failure, and the writer considers this case the most pitiable object among all our failing students. Because why such a student is pitiable? Because he does not know even the real application of the matter. He does not have the sense or the realization of the seriousness of his studies, right? For it is almost a tragedy to see all of this keenness going to waste, and to feel that the entire opportunity which the college has to offer is passed up, but because of two respective mind, right? The writer says that the writer says that uh, such a student uh, almost such a student wastes the time and and opportunity provided by the college. The cure of this sort of thing is again not easy, for it involves an entire change of attitude and the forming of a completely new set of habits. No one can do this but the boy himself. All that the rest of us can do is to point out what is the matter. So, in this paragraph, here is another analysis done by the writer, and it's very useful. Let's see the main points of the paragraph. In paragraph 3, the writer presents these ideas that some students do not understand the difference of level of college and school work, which they used to do with less effort, and they think that they will pass through as they did in school without much hard work and labor, right? Secondly, he says such bright boys try to get things quickly and do not understand the real application of the work, and which he called the most pitiable case, right? Recommendation suggested by the writer is that an entire change of attitude is required based on the formation of a completely new set of habits. Such a boy should change his own attitude, and he should have new set of habits having seriousness, hard work, and other what should we say careful attention should be paid on his part to his studies. He should develop such habits in his character. Paragraph 4. The question of health, both physical and mental, is always one of the reasons for failure, right? If an adequate health service is available in the college, and if proper cooperation exists between the teaching staff and the office of the college doctor, an immense number of failure can be avoided. Immense means great, right? So the question of health, both physical and mental, according to the writer, it is very important. And if the college staff and the doctors, they have coordination, and the problems, physical or mental problems of the students are reported on time, such failures can be avoided. And what is just as important, the reason for inability to do satisfactory college work can be clearly understood by the boy, his parents, and the college authorities. In the case of poor academic work, the reason for which is not apparent, it is my custom always to ask the students to undergo a thorough physical examination. He says that if I find some student doing poor work, showing not good, no good performance in studies, what do I suggest? I ask them to undergo a complete physical examination, physical checkup. It is surprising to find out in how large a percentage of such cases the university physician finds an adequate reason for the difficulty, for the failure. Tuberculosis, bad tonsils, sleeping sickness, poor digestion, various forms of mental and nervous difficulty have been brought to light by the doctor during the past few months, to the unspeakable relief of the students and enlightenment of the faculty. Right? When the doctor tells that diseases are found in different students, and when they recover, after treatment, the writer says that there comes an unspeakable relief, right, and light, both for the doctor and for the student, sorry, faculty and the student. Okay. Occasionally, one meets an old-fashioned parents. It also happens, he says, that some time we meet, or as a dean, he used to meet and some old-fashioned parents. Okay, like the father who told me a few months ago that although we had arranged to have his son's tonsils removed without expense, he would not consent to the operation. Such parents, he says that I met once, and I told him that we had arranged for the operation of his son, to remove his son's bad tonsils, but he did not um, uh, agree, and he did not show any consent. He asserted that God put those tonsils in his son's throat for some good purpose, and that he would not stand for their removal. So this was the reason which he presented. Such sort of old-fashioned or conservative parents, they also, behave like that. Since the boy was absorbing too much poison to permit proper application to his college work, we had to ask him to go home. So the boy was finally sent home because he was unable to carry on his studies. Of course, such cases are rare, but it is necessary to keep constantly in mind the simple fact that there is no substitute for health, and that however such a man may know, it is not of much value unless he possesses the physical vigor to bring it to bear on the world's problem. So at the end, the writer has pointed out that uh, how important is health for every work to be done in this world, and especially for the studies, the student need complete health. Uh, Here are the main points of paragraph 4. Poor health, either physical or mental, is also a cause of failure. He says, then he says that in case of poor academic work, the reason lurks oftenly in sufferings like tuberculosis, bad tonsils, sleeping sickness, poor digestion, various forms of mental and nervous difficulties, which can be diagnosed first and treated. And after the treatment, what happens? The boy feels great relief. So such feeling is also felt by the teachers as well. And recommendations to improve such a situation he presents are: there should be a proper health service, right? There should be a proper health service provision in the college. Cooperation between teaching staff and doctors is a must to be provided, right? And to, to be provided regularly, cooperation between teaching staff and doctor is a must to provide regular physical examination and diagnosis of the disease and its cure, right? And parents should also play an active part in reporting to the college physician on time any sickness of their children. Next, we have two paragraphs which share the same point. These are paragraph 5 and 6. Nowadays, when most ambitious boys want to go to college, the financial pressure is very serious one. A few parents take the position that the boy should uh, earn his way through college for the good of his soul. As a matter of fact, no boy ought to be compelled, should be forced to earn his entire way mean his all expenses through college if it can in any way be avoided. The writer says that nowadays, uh, if some boys or some students, they are willing to work hard, they are willing to do or to pay full attention to their studies, um, the hurdle is the financial pressure, right? And which matters a lot in their poor performance. He says, as a matter of fact, no boy ought to be compelled. No student should be forced to earn his entire way, all his for all his expenses through college. During the college life, it if it can in any way be avoided. So such things should be avoided strictly so that the student should pay full attention to his studies. Not only does he get a mighty poor living by the process, means by earning himself, but a mighty poor education as well. He will get a very low salary and as well as a poor education. If the boy ought to go college, ought to go to college at all, he ought to be trusted to make good use of reasonable contribution from his parents towards his expenses, right? If the parents are sending them, the students, to the college, their son to the college, they should take the responsibility of bearing his expenses. Any parent owes this much to his son. This is the duty of every parent, to his son or to their children. The boy did not ask his parents to bring him into the world. They are responsible for his being here, and consequently they have the responsibility for giving him the best equipment possible to meet the world's problem, right? So he should not be left in the world to face such financial problems by himself. He should be fully supported and aided by his parents. Nevertheless, many boys are cast entirely on their own resources, right? Most of the boys, they have to depend on their own resources for their college expenses, and it is always to the detriment of their health or the value of their education. Detriment, loss, it causes loss of their health as well as the value of their education, or both. And any boy can earn a part of his expenses without hurting himself. And in my experience, many boys are willing to earn more than their share in order to save the burden of their parents, right? But to see boys by the dozen take jobs lasting from 6 o'clock in the evening till 2 in the morning, 6 days in a week, to see boys undergoing transfusion of blood to get money for their food and books is heart-rending heart-rending spectacle. He says, it is very difficult to see the boys. We feel great pity for the boys who have to work hard, such jobs which start from 6 o'clock until 2 in the morning. Uh, so working so late at night, just for the sake of money, it is just like transfusion of blood on the part of the boy to get money for their food and books. So he says that this should not be done at all. Many of our boys' finest character and excellent ability in doing just this kind of thing. And inevitably, it is an important reason for apparent failure. Most colleges do all they can with scholarship funds to alleviate this situation, but even when everything possible is done, every dean who knows his students can recall many cases of boys who have been obliged to drop out for the lack of little money to see them through. So the writer at the end says that college should play an active part in offering scholarships for the students to improve this situation. And he says that as a dean and many other deans, they also uh, uh, they also know that many of the students they have to drop out just because of this financial pressure. Okay, so here are the main points of these two paragraphs. Financial pressure mars the learning potential of the students if they are caught by the feeling that they have to earn their entire way through college to bear their educational expenses, right? This burdens them, and they they do not get only uh, they get not only a poor living as well as a poor education. So recommendations presented by the writers are: the students should be supported financially by their parents and must not be compelled or forced for self earning for studies, right? The college should offer scholarship funds to alleviate the situation. The college dean can save many students who are forced to drop out for the lack of little money. Here is paragraph 7 of the text. There are always goodly numbers of undergraduates whose heads are turned and whose judgment is perverted by the attractiveness of athletic sports and literary activity. The writer has pointed out another category of the students who do not try, who they are, they, who have strange thinking, and who do not have right judgment, and they are more attracted towards the co-curricular activities like athletic sports or literary activities. All of these features of college life have their place, mean have their importance, and should receive the support of these students, those students who are interested in them, right? In my experience, the awakening of a clear judgment is as to what the college is for is not as difficult as it is often supposed. He says that the thing which is required, that students should be guided, that what is the main purpose of the college, not the sports or the athletics only, and literary activities only. The real aim or the real purpose of the college life is to study. If a boy is too much interested in these side shows mean co-curricular activities, he ought to get out of the main tent. He should be selected from the main group and become professional, right? He should be selected. He should be separated from the other students and should be made professional in that field. But most of them really are not. And if reasoned with a boy, a friend who knows youth and understands the importance of the college opportunity, they will not allow themselves to be swept off their feet by athletics. So the writers suggest that if they are guided by someone sympathetic, or if one guides them sympathetically, they can be uh, saved from such a failure, and they should be guided towards the right direction, and they will not allow themselves to be swept off their feet by athletics. They will not waste the whole opportunity offered by the college to get education, and they would not prefer athletics on education. I do not think that this sort of thing is as serious a reason for failure as do some of the critics of our colleges who see things from the outside and at a long range. So another idea he presents that this cannot be as serious a cause as people used to present it. So in this paragraph, the writer says that extraordinary attraction of students towards co-curricular ventures like athletic sports and literary activities also causes failure. And very few students have a serious interest in these areas who want to become professionals, but most of them do not understand the importance of the opportunity presented by the college, right? And a recommendation he presents, this studies and these activities often go side by side, but a balance should be created between the two, right? Now here is paragraph 8. A few lazy bluffers drift into college and usually drift out again. Most of them have not found any serious interest in life, right? Lazy bluffers, he calls to those students who do not have or who do not show any type of serious attitude in life or in education or in anything, right? And some of them never will, he says. Further, he says it is usually wise to let them and retire to the cold world for a reason and find out by experience how much demand there is for a lazy bluffer. Here he suggests something very practical. He says that such boys should be pushed towards the uh, cold world. I mean, they should not they should not be allowed to sit in the college, and they should be uh, pushed in the practical life so that they should understand that how much place is there for a lazy bluffer. Sometimes they learn their lesson and return to do first rate work. When they are turned out from the college, sometimes they learn the lesson very soon and return back to the college to do work seriously. But the burden of proof is always on them to show that they mean business, right? So it was all about paragraph 8, and the next is paragraph 9. Okay, here we are. On the whole, the problem that the college dean faces calls for about the same diagnostic ability as the physicians, right? He is helping the young men under him to see life steadily and see it whole. If he can save boys from failure through foolishness, sickness, and sin, he is doing his part of the job. So this last paragraph, it unfolds the conclusion of the whole essay, and uh, we have to conclude paragraph 8 as well, right? And let's see the main points, and then we will come to the conclusion of paragraph 9. Uh, Paragraph 8 uh, shows that writer has presented these two major points. Some students show extreme lack of interest in their educational career. Such lazy bluffers usually drift out as soon as they drift into the college, right? And the writer suggests it is wise to let them retire to the cold world for a reason and find out, it is found out by the experience how much demand let them find out through experience that how much demand there is for a lazy bluffer. It proves to be an effective strategy, and some of them they learn and return to do first rate work, right? And now let's see the conclusion of paragraph 9, or the main points discussed in paragraph 9. To conclude his essay, Herbert Edwin Hawkes says that all these problems can be resolved if the dean of the college possesses the diagnostic ability as the physicians. If he has the ability to diagnose or to analyze and research different reasons of the failure of students, this ability should be as keen and sharp as is the ability of a doctor or a physician while he diagnoses the reasons of disease. In this way, he helps the young men under him to see life steadily. If he can save the students from failure through foolishness, sickness, and sin, he is doing his duty honestly. So, this was all about today's lesson. And now let's see that here are few difficult words which I will explain to you, and you need to know their meanings. Um the first is they do not reach their natural academic boundary, means they do not complete their education and fail to get the required degree, right? Second is get through. Get through mean pass. Native ability means natural ability. Concentrate on the task assigned mean give full attention to the given work. And eradicated means root out or put an end to something, to end something. And lake, it is take by the collar mean to deal firmly with himself. Then poise, uh, the fidgets, balance and self-discipline, which keep back nervous excitement. Mapped out mean planned. Run counter mean going against. Long and short of it means all
हमारा
that
रिजल्ट आ गया
can or need be said.
हमारा रिजल्ट आ गया इशारा
Okay. And
ये देखो
here are few other words.
अगला
Detriment mean damage, loss, or injury. Transfusion of blood means putting blood from one living body into another. Heart rending mean very painful. Inevitably mean bound to happen as a matter of course, necessarily. See them through mean enable them to finish their course. Heads are
रिजल्ट आ
turned mean they
गया
feel very vain.
तो
Perverted get turned to wrong use.
क्वेश्चन सारे नहीं अपडेट आ रही है अभी अभी उस वेबसाइट पे वन ऑर्डर को मतलब कि 758 मैसेज आया था कि एक्सेप्ट द स्टूडेंट इन नॉर्थ दिल्ली हैज कंसिडर्ड ऑल एग्जाम फॉर
Next
क्लास
is professional, doing a thing for a living. Swept off their feet means allow themselves to be carried away. See things at a long range means from a distance. Bluffer means one who bluffs to deceive others. And drift mean go aimlessly. Cold word mean hard, unsympathetic word. Burden of proof mean obligation to prove a given statement. See it whole means see life in a balanced way and from all sides. Now here is an exercise containing different questions. The first question is, according to the author, there are some boys who fail because they do not try. Who are they? Can we help them? Right? Second question is, how does mistaken ambition on the part of boys and their parents leads to the failure of the boys? Right? I will explain these two questions. That first question says that the author has pointed out uh, a few students who fail because they do not try to get through the college career. Who are they? You have to tell the category which do not category of the students which do not try to get through in college life, and what are such type of boys, or who are they, and can we help them? Here this question is very important, that because it demands the solution. You have to tell that what should be the solution, or how the situation for such students can be improved. Next question, I will explain how does mistaken ambition mean the wrong choice of career on the part of boys and their parents lead to the failure of boys. Right here you have to explain and give the reasons why a wrong career or mistaken ambition leads to the failure of the students. And you have to explain that because of this uh, fact they cannot pay full interest or full attention to their studies. Okay, next question is, there are some boys who have done well at school but fail to make their mark at college. Who are they? Do you have such boys in college in your country? Right. So this is again a very good question which invites you to express your own what should we say, opinion, or you have to present or make a comparison of the situation present in your own college, right? And the question demands that you should answer that who are some boys who try to get through this the college in the same casual way as they used to do at their school. How does financial pressure lead to the failure of the students described in the lesson? Do you have similar cases in your country? Again, you have to compare the situation, presented or posed in this question, that is the financial pressure, with the situation found in your own country, right? And the answer would be yes, because in our country we also do have such cases. The boys or the students who have to earn on their own for getting education. Okay, next question is, to what extent does the question of health lead to failure at college? How far can the college authorities with their medical officers help students in such cases? So here you have to find the answer in the relevant part of the text, where the reason of failure is uh, pointed out by the writer, the issue of health, both mental and physical. Next question says, what place would be accord to sportsmen in colleges, right? So you have to find the answer in the relevant part of the text, that the sportsmen, the students who are keenly interested only in athletics and sport, they should taken away from the main tent and they should be given the chance to become professionals. Last question is, there are some students who join college for the fun of it. Should they be allowed to stay, right? And the answer is in the second last paragraph, where you can find that what suggestion is presented by the writer, and it is that they should be turned out of the college to learn their lesson in the cold world, and some of them, they soon return back and try to do their work seriously and hardworkingly. So this is all about today's lesson, right? Uh, I hope you might have understood all the ideas presented by the writer, and the lesson has uh, twofold usefulness. That on one side, the writer presents all the reasons, right, which are which are contributing for the failure of students of college, and on the other hand he goes uh, to suggest different solutions and different recommendations he presents for the improvement of the situation.